good with y'all, man? If you already new to the channel, make sure you hit that like, drop that sub, turn on them noties, man. Doing video daily. Happy Monday. Hope y'all have a good start to y'all week. But let's go ahead and jump into this article. I was sent this quite a few times, actually, and Forbes is talking about how the Snyderverse could be sold to Netflix or something like that. So let's go ahead and get up into this article and see what we twerking with here, man. So, it says, Superman returns again. How James Gunn's reboot defines DC's future, which we all know that. This summer you will believe a man can fly again and again and again. Superman returns to the big screen on July 11th this summer, and writer-director and DC Studios co-CEO James Gunn's reboot will define DC's future on the big screen. Gunn's film is Superman's 8th solo feature film and the character's 12th live-action movie appearance, counting 1951's hour-long Superman and the Mole Man starring George Reeves in what was essentially a low-budget cinematic pilot, launching the Adventures of Superman TV series a year later. I love that series, by the way. It was a good series. Reeves' Superman was actually quite faithful to the depiction in persona in the early Superman comic strips, while his Clark was less cowardly and more of a intrepid reporter like Lois. They competed, and it was part of their friendly rhetoric. Yeah, didn't Reeves' Superman also kill Zod, but didn't face backlash like Zack Snyder did? The 1978 one that started it all, Superman the movie, offered a comic-accurate adaptation of the character in all of its earnest, corny charm. Christopher Reeve was born to play the role if anyone was making Clark Kent, and his costumed alter ego, two distinct performances that could have been played by different actors. Reeves' Clark put on a bumbling and cowardly display in line with much of the early comic strips stories, but only gradually incorporated more of the investigative reporter elements. Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor is an evil mad scientist with plans for destruction and domination, armed with kryptonite and a subterranean lair shared. Superman stops crime, saves people from disasters, rescue kittens from trees, and demonstrate all of his famous powers in what were eye-opening visual effects promoted as making you believe a man could fly, and in 1978 it did. Superman 2 continued the approach of the first film, with Superman villains threatening the world and Lex Luthor once again with his grubby fingers in the mix. Superman, however, is feeling disenchanted with his role on Earth's protector at the expense of his own personal happiness, namely a love life with Lois Lane. The extended fight sequence in the middle of Metropolis offered even more dramatic action spectacle than the first film, the firmly established superhero cinema as a modern force to be reckoned with. But Superman 3, for all of its charm, and there's much charm to be found from Reeves' nevertheless 100% effort and performance, to one of the coolest scenes in any Superman movie when Clark Kent does battle with his own cape-wearing identity. Still, the plot and production values were weak, and the film relied heavily on camp and comedic turn by Richard Pryor. Superman 5 was the worst of the bunch. By a wide margin, terrible visual effects, bad plot, ridiculous villain, a cast who will sleepwalk through their roles, with the exception again of Reeve, who commits to the role fully and sells the themes about disarmament even while the movie falls apart around him. Okay, what were we gonna get into the Netflix? Superman Returns was worthy if flawed sequel to the first Superman films, ignoring the third and fourth movie completely. Brandon Routh was a great Superman and could have made the role in his own given time. Alas, the film's choice not to have Superman fight anybody, love triangle, and dominance, relationship drama, and the addition of a son were controversial choices among different corners of the audience and fandom. Routh's Clark and Superman were treated as mostly the same person. Frankly, the Clark had only a few hints of Reeves' more comically bumbling persona, yet also lacked any notable distinctions as a character from his costumed alias. So it was that after 5 films across 28 years, Superman's next appearance will finally be a reboot for new generations. Man of Steel in 2013, which is goated, introduced a very different type of Superman in Henry Cavill, with a grounded, deconstructive approach similar to the popular billionaire Dark Knight Batman trilogy from director Christopher Nolan. That's because WB wanted Zack Snyder to follow the success of the Dark Knight trilogy, which people don't blame WB for, they blame Zack Snyder for. Stupid. Grandfathering a Man of Steel and David Goyer's script brought the same sensibilities the pair brought to Batman Begins, and combined with Zack Snyder's directing, it established a mythic scale and counterpoint to Marvel Studios' MCU approach, which had just scored $1.5 billion with the Avengers a year prior. Great movie. Love the first Avengers. The desaturated colors, somber tone, and questioning of Superman's place in the world, indeed questioning whether humanity deserves him or is ready for him, were unexpected approaches and combinations at a time when Marvel's more mainstream and colorful family-friendly approach had made superhero cinema the dominant force at the box office. If WB didn't try to compete with Marvel, I guarantee you we would have already had Zack's story and they would have made over $1 billion. Easy. But they didn't have the patience to wait. They wanted to compete, which is fine to compete, but they rushed it. You can never rush something great. Still, Man of Steel shared a great deal in common with Superman and Superman 2. The origin story begins on Krypton and brings Kal-El on Earth. Young Clark sets off in the world to find his purpose and discovers his origins via hologram of his father and a Kryptonian structure in the Arctic, all married 1978 film. Then comes the arrival of General Zod, his two primary compatriots, a warrior woman and a silent, hulking brute, who do battle with Superman around the city, causing much destruction and threatening the life of Lois Lane and her Daily Planet co-workers. Now adding Superman losing his powers temporarily when Zod's crew first arrives and needing to regain his powers via help from his father. Superman's flight high over the Earth as he zooms towards the camera and others and a few other homages. Maybe even at least consider that the theatrical version of Superman 2 seemed to suggest Superman killed Zod, Ursa? I don't know. And Non dropping them down into the freezing shafts of his Fortress of Solitude and then seen flying away with Lois in his arms. Deleted footage showed the trio of villains taken into custody. Interestingly, the theatrical film also implies Superman left Lex Luthor stranded in the Arctic as well. Cavill's Clark was an interesting throwback to George Reeves' intrepid reporter, lacking the bumbling personality and other aspects that perhaps drew more attention to Clark than if he just acted like a regular guy who was trying to be good at his job. Few people would expect Superman to spend most of his life wearing glasses and a suit so that he could be a newspaper reporter of no notable personal distinction other than good local reporting. It's actually maybe the smartest play. Me, honestly, I always thought Clark's cover up for Superman was just corny. I'm sorry. It is. Like, the only thing he does is he takes his glasses off and he puts a suit on and he puts a curl. Like, I always thought it was corny. Like, anybody can know that it's Superman if we're being completely honest. So, Man of Steel was at once a nod to everything audiences generally knew and had seen from the Superman on the big screen, but all of it modernized and made more serious with the upgraded visual effects, turned superpower event to... Alright, hold on. Where is the... Okay, I finally found it. I ain't gonna lie. This is a long article, bro. We not about to read all this. I was reading so much, I thought we was getting to it. Alright, so we got to the part now. It says, which allows studios to go all in one on Superman as they seem smartly doing. Supergirl likewise has a backup path to success and thus is a comfortable spot. Not that anybody wants anything to go wrong, but if things do, then the studio won't face impossible choices and lost opportunities while lacking any backup plans, which I'm pretty sure they got backup plans. I know they do. They have to. There's always even the outlier option of using the delay as an excuse to license DCEU properties, meaning specific existing scripts and plans for a specific set of films within the context of the DCEU, including a solo Batman project and a couple Justice League sequels, as well as a Wonder Woman sequel and a Batgirl movie, to Netflix or Apple. Indeed, Apple has deep pockets to pay well for licensing such major properties for a set of streaming exclusive superhero movie releases for animated movies appealing to the fans of the Snyderverse. Honestly, if I'm being 1000% honest, I wouldn't mind it going to Apple. Everything that I have watched on Apple, they do such a good job with TV shows on Apple. I am impressed. Apple is doing the thing, man. Like, Apple, like, they care about how they put things out. Like, I haven't seen one bad show on Apple yet, so I would trust Apple. So why not? It's free money. Someone else does all the work, and you know there's a built-in audience. There's a built-in audience, and another streamer would pay handsomely, throw in exclusive rights to stream the DCEU collection of films to that same streamer, and in the event the DCU plans to have postponed while the Batman builds out a new world, the licensing idea is a good option to keep generating revenue for DC and find ways to engage audience where they are until the feature film plans to get back on track again. I say that partially to poke those who claim licensing such content is somehow not possible, but mostly it's to say there are plenty of good options even in the unlikely event Gunn and Safran's plans don't work out with Superman. Instead of the potential chaos and break the company up and sell it, fears that might seem obvious in such a situation, I think this is all spells out how smartly positioned the studio is right now, and they don't feel a need to rush projects or announcement plans. Superman lives, and this summer he intends to give us all a reason to look up again. Every video we've ever covered about Zack Snyder and Warner Brothers, I've said the same thing over and over and over and over. If you want to make money, just let Snyder finish his vision. It's guaranteed money, man. Guaranteed money. Like, no other director in the history of movie making, I'm pretty sure, has never had such a fan base behind him to where they actually get his movie released that was not released, and they wasn't going to release it, but they got it released. All those people who said the Snyder Cut didn't exist, which is actually funny. I saw a video the other day of a whole lot of YouTubers and just people talking like, if you think the Snyder Cut exists, you're stupid. If you think this is this, you're that. And came to find out they were absolutely wrong. It was quite a funny video. Maybe I might react to it. But listen. Guaranteed money. Guaranteed money. People give Zack all this hate, man, and they're hypocrites. They're hypocrites. All this Superman talk with James Gunn, we seen the sneak peek, the 5 minutes, it was a parody. The trailer, the pictures, I ain't seen David's Superman smile yet. But somehow Zack's Superman was a realistic Superman, as if he was coming to our world and he was finding his way. And he was getting to that Superman everybody loves in Justice League. At the end of the Zack Snyder's Justice League, he was getting to that Superman. Like I've said 1,000 times, he was getting to that Superman. Everybody know he was getting there. But people don't have patience. They want to rush. They want to compete with the MCU instead of staying in their own lane and handle their own business and build it. You know the famous saying is, it's a meme out there. Not even a meme. It's a picture of Michael Phelps swimming. And he's in first place. Or actually, no, he's in second place. And there's a swimmer in front of him. And the swimmer is looking back, looking at him. But Michael Phelps comes back to win. And it's always, don't pay attention to what's behind you. Just keep moving forward. That dude ended up losing that race because he was worried about what was behind him. Instead of focusing on the goal, focusing on what he needed to focus on winning, he got distracted. And that's exactly what WB did. They got distracted, tried to compete with the MCU, and bam. The rest is history. And, it's a whole lot of stuff to talk about with that, but I ain't going in all that. So, sell it, man. Get it rolling. Y'all want to make money, man. Just... If WB announced today that they was letting Zack Snyder finish his vision, how much do you want to bet the internet would break? The internet would be in shambles. It would be headlines everywhere. I ain't got nothing else to say, man. Post your comments down below. Let me know what you guys thought, man. If you enjoyed my review of this long article, let me know what you guys think. You already know, hashtag restore the Snyderverse, hashtag release the Ayer cut, because that's also in Zack Snyder's universe, so it's only fair that we get the real version of Suicide Squad as well. I'm going to catch y'all on the next one, man. 100,000 subscribers is right on time. Let's get it.